Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. Hope things are well with you wherever you are today. It's a frigid, cold, but beautiful day here in the greater Starkville area as we enjoy another wonderful day here on the Ponderosa. And man, do you smell that in the air? I'm sure you do. It's the smell of victory. And man, it feels so good to win. It feels so good to win. Didn't get the sweep we were hoping for on the basketball courts, but nevertheless, we won the one I think that was most important. And they're all important, but if we had to kind of gauge what they mean for the trajectory of our season, we had to win the men's game. We're going to break that down today. We'll talk about the women's game. Got a cool top 10 for you, and also too, we'll have a recruiting update in the final segment of the show. There is a young man who has committed to Mississippi State. We're just kind of waiting for him to announce. I already got the story written. We're just kind of waiting on him. And so we'll wait and record that in the final segment of the show. I'll tell you what I think. I'm very, very, very pleased with this one. As I've shared on the genespage.com message boards. Very, very pleased. We haven't revealed the name. It should be no real surprise, but we'll do that last, okay? Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. I will be in Bulldog Burger Company at least once this week. I am craving some Bulldog Burger Company. And sometimes you just have a craving and an itch that can't be scratched anywhere else than Bulldog Burger Company. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And sometimes, I got a big event coming up Thursday, I got to get some spring rolls to ensure that my beauty care regimen is complete. Because the spring rolls make you and everybody around you better looking. Yeah, it's true. So, 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. If you're in town or on the way to town, be sure and stop by and let them feed you. They know everything they need to know about feeding folks. Just go put your feet under their table. Let them take care of everything else. They're glad you're there. A great company doing a great job for a great fan base, and really it doesn't really matter who you cheer for. They don't discriminate. They give everybody great service, great food at a great price. Find a great restaurant quality hamburger that suits you. If you're a newbie to Bulldog Burger Company, and shame on you if you are, but nevertheless, come on. I would get the Bulldog first because it is just a straight ahead rock and roll hamburger. And sometimes I order that. Sometimes I just am in a mood for just a great cheeseburger, and so I get the Bulldog. Sometimes I add bacon. It's true. Find your own favorites and ride that ride home with a smile with that chocolate shake to go. You'll be glad you did. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay. It's not news to you, but the Mississippi State Bulldogs take care of Ole Miss. And man, what a great game it was. Now, there are a few things that I'm going to say about this Ole Miss team, and most of them are complimentary. But this was basically March Madness quality game. This is 2 teams that should make the NCAA tournament. Barring something totally unforeseen, right? If everybody stays healthy, and that's difficult to do in this day and age, even with all the athletic trainers and recovery apparatuses we have these days, there is still that element that you have to kind of consider. But I thought Ole Miss played well after we got off to the big start. We came out, man. It looked like the Bulldogs were so ready to play. And, man, what does that say about this staff? I thought we started extremely well. We didn't close out the second half extremely well. But, we came out breathing fire in this ball game. And for those of you that were there with us in Humphrey Coliseum, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It just felt like, man, that our fans were about ready to just devour Ole Miss. And I bet there was less than 100 Ole Miss fans there. There weren't many there at all. And the ones that were there were the good variety, the ones that are seen and not heard. That's the best kind of Ole Miss fan. It is. But, when you look up, man, at one point, it's like it's 18-4. And you think, man, we're going to run these guys out of Starkville. But Ole Miss, a proud team, a well-coached team, they begin to kind of rally back. Next thing you know, all of a sudden it becomes a ball game. And I'm sitting there with Greg Rigdon, and he's like, man, we're going to let them back in the game. And we did. And some of that, too, was us, right? I mean, give them some credit, but we kind of opened the door a little bit for them to kind of crawl back into the ball game. You know, that's the truth. We had some silly turnovers and some empty possessions, but I guess right around 7.5 there, Jamin Brakefield makes the three to make it a 9-point game, and all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute, they're within 10. How did that happen? That's how it felt. And to be honest with you, I thought we were going to be okay even then, because, you know, again, you expect everybody to make a run. And then, you know, we kind of responded. You know, made some big free throws, made some good things happen. Next thing you know, we pushed that thing back out to 14. It was like, okay, now we're good. We're good. We'll go ahead and just kind of get on into the half here and be in good shape. And then, they closed the half with a little sense of purpose, I guess we could say. Sean Padula with a three-pointer with under a minute to go makes it again, an 11-point game at 37-26. But, we get into the halftime intermission up just 8. And it really felt like we should be up more. It felt like we had outplayed them. But again, give Ole Miss some credit. One of the things that I would say that some people will misconstrue as being negative, and that's okay, because I think you guys know I don't need a lecture from any Ole Miss fan on how to act about any aspect of my life. I didn't think they were especially athletic. And I thought that our athleticism really hurt them when we began to be very deliberate at getting to the rim. We either got a basket or we had the opportunity to get to the line. I did think they were very, very good at creating open shots. They did a really good job on, the drive and penetrate and then kick. And they hit some big shots, some big three-point baskets at very opportune times to kind of, stop runs or kind of continue runs of their own. But I really felt like, late in that ball game, I said, we will put some things together here and find a way to win this ball game. I just didn't think we were going to be denied. And again, they just kind of chip away and trade baskets with us. And, we're not able to really get separation. And all of a sudden, Matthew Morrell makes a three-pointer at the 16-minute mark, and it's a 1-point game. State's up 39-38. And there was some unsettled emotion within Humphrey Coliseum at that point. Josh hits a three, and you feel like, okay, all right, we're good. But no, Ole Miss wouldn't go away. And again, they're a good team, and you expect good teams to continue to fight, and they did. Road wins in this league are very difficult to come by. We trade three-point baskets with them. Next thing you know, we're up 4 with 11:25 to go. And then just as everybody kind of settled in a little bit and said, okay, we'll just kind of trade punches here, all of a sudden we stopped punching for a while. Even though we pushed the lead back out to 8, Ole Miss got going. And again, a lot of it from beyond the arc. Sean Padula makes it a 2-point game under 8 minutes to go. And then, State responds. We push it back out to 7. And you think, okay, well, maybe this is the decisive run in this ball game, and we'll go ahead and put this thing away. No, that wasn't the case at all. We had some silly fouls. We did some things that didn't make a lot of sense. And after Jamin Brakefield knocks a 2-point basket down at 4:42 to go, it's a tie ball game. Now we respond, and then they respond. And again, I think this is one of those classic moments in Humphrey Coliseum that we will remember for a long time. I think not just because of the fact that it was a rivalry game, but because the teams are kind of on even footing. I mean, how many times have you seen, just because it's a rivalry game, somebody tries to play spoiler, right? That's always that aspect of it. Anytime these two get together, it's just always insanity. It is. But this is one of those games because of how State closed this thing out that I think you feel like, hey, I'm really glad I was there to see that. I mean, this is a ticket-saving quality game for those of you that have the paper tickets. And if you bought a program, it's one that I think you want to hang on to. I think this is one of those games in many respects that kind of marks a season. And we talked about how big a deal it was to go to Memphis and win, and it was. This is even bigger than that. Again, because I think Ole Miss is a better team than Memphis, even though Memphis beat them. But with 2 minutes to play, guys, it's a 2-point game. And many of you felt like I did. It's like, hey, it would be a shame for us to have played as well as we did, and the next thing you know, we let it slip away late. And I'm sure on the bench, Chris Beard's over there told them, guys, this is what we wanted. We wanted to make this thing, a fight to the finish, and here we are. And then Matthew Morrell hits a 2-point basket with just over a minute to play. And now all of a sudden, they're within one possession. They just need to get a stop. And then eventually, Keyshawn Murphy, who has been so money for Mississippi State this year, gets a big offensive rebound, lays it back up and in, pushes it back out to 4. Ole Miss answers. And so 24 seconds to play, we get Melendez going to the line. And so a chance to make this, a 2-possession game. And instead, we miss the front end of a 1-and-1. And, pardon me. Yeah, that's right, yeah. And then we end up, I guess we missed the first one and made the second one. Pardon me, it was a 2-shot foul. But it's a 3-point game, and then Matthew Morrell hits that big 3-point basket with 8 seconds to play. Clutch shot. And, and Matthew Morrell, again, one of those guys, too, that, we've expected to be gone for a long time. But it's a big shot. It was a big moment in the game. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean, the guy had to make a big shot. He did. We had an opportunity to come down and win the game in regulation, and we didn't. And one of the things I will say, and people always say, Steve, don't be negative. One of the things that I will say, and I know sometimes you just want to let guys play through some adversity. There's sometimes I think we should call a timeout. And when they made their little run, I thought we probably should have. But in that moment, I am okay with running it, right? He hits a big shot. And the emotion of that moment sometimes may allow an opportunity for you to get back down the floor and steal it. So I'm perfectly okay with it. I don't even remember what the timeout situation was. But nevertheless, we had our chance to win it there in regulation. We don't. I think it was Kugel on a missed 3. Memory serves me correct. Let's double check that. Yeah, it was Kugel on a missed 3. And more from him later, right? We get into overtime here. And I think, it's one of those things, too. I think the team that leads throughout has a disadvantage in overtime. Because if you're the team that got down 20-4 and you look up and say, hey, man, we forced overtime, there starts to be this feeling of belief. This is our game. We're supposed to win this thing. These guys couldn't knock us out. We got down by 16. Now here we are. I can hear Chris Beard making that speech in my head. It's one that all of us would have made. But, say, State comes out here. We have an empty possession or two. We get the ball back. And then next thing you know, it's a dunk from Brakefield on the other end. We tie it up, Cam Matthews. And that's the thing that I've noticed with Cam. You guys have seen it, too, now forever and a day. You let Cam Matthews get good position in the low post, you may as well just let him score so you don't get an and one. Backs this guy down, just kind of lays it up and in with the right hand there. Just really, really impressive. We trade a couple of missed 3-point baskets, and we get down 1 here after the Padula free throws. And it's like, hey, we're going to be okay. We'll find a way to be okay. And then this incredible moment happened in Humphrey Coliseum. And I don't know that I'll ever forget it. Because you see this kind of ball moving at times, but there's just so many heroes on this play, and many of you that were in attendance are part of it. Ole Miss is up 77-76. And Hub misses a jumper. And then Barnes gets the rebound, and the outlet pass gets out to Morrell. And it looks like Morrell is going to basically get an easy layup on the other end. But instead, R.J. Melendez, who is quickly emerging as my favorite player on this team, is like, no, you better heave it. You lay that thing up. I'm taking it off the glass. He does. Murphy gets the rebound. We get it out. Next thing you know, it's in the hands of Cam Matthews on basically a little bit of an alley-oop pass from Josh Hubbard there. And, he could have just forced the action there, and you never know what could have happened. But Cam Matthews, with the presence of mind, and it's one thing that impresses me so much about this team, we always know where everybody is. That sounded good coaching, right? He didn't have to look. He already knew. And there's Riley Kugel in the corner, essentially wide open. They get a guy out there, and Kugel rams home a three to give State the lead again, and the place exploded. It was, again, one of those magical moments. You remember how it was last year, the win over Tennessee, like when Cam got loose and heaved it home to put the exclamation point on? That's how this felt a little bit. It truly was. I mean, we talk about how fun basketball can be. Saturday night was a fun night. I've been going to Mississippi State basketball games for a long time, and I can tell you that's one of those moments, man, that I'm really glad that I was there to see in person. I'm sure it was amazing on television. I couldn't wait to get out in the car so I could see some of the clips that our creative team did such a good job with. And this is one of them. Could not wait to see it. So State with the 2-point lead there. And again, it felt like the emotional moment, like we had just wrestled all of the juice and momentum away from them. Because what a run that could be, right? I mean, they're about to make it a 2-possession game. And we got a guy hustling on the play, and it leads to 3 on the other end. Incredible. And then Melendez, again, getting caught doing the right thing. Gets an offensive rebound, puts it up, and then State up 4 now. 30 seconds to go in this game, and you feel like, hey, we're good. Padula misses a 3. They get a rebound, and then Brakefield gets a dunk. It's a 2-point game. And again, under 30 seconds, you're thinking, okay, hey, we're good. But no, we end up getting fouled. And I thought this we talk about game management, and I'm a firm believer in this. Joe Moorhead said it maybe as succinctly as anybody I've ever heard. You can't accept in victory what you wouldn't accept in defeat. And I thought this scenario here, when you know they have to foul, we got to make sure Keyshawn Murphy gets the ball in the hands of Josh Hubbard or Melendez or a guard, right? And we kind of got a little bit lax there. And, of course, he makes 1 of 2 to make it a 3-point game. But you start thinking, I really want the ball in the hands of Josh Hubbard or Riley Kugel. You want it in the hands of a guard. Simple as that. We got to have a little bit better situational awareness there. But, again, you feel like, hey, we're up 3. We can't lose. And now we get the turnover. And a great effort here by Riley Kugel. Initially they called it off of Kugel, and it was obvious to all of us there that no, it was not. They review it, they get the call right, and there were way too many reviews late in this ball game. Way too many. I thought the officiating to be honest with you, I thought the officiating sucked in this game. And let me tell you why I thought it sucked before we close this thing out. The one thing that you want in basketball is consistency. Right? So at the beginning of this ball game, they were just letting everybody play, which is advantage us. We're the more physical team. And like in my group text, I made a comment that I thought Ole Miss was a little bit soft. And I don't mean soft in mental acuity. They're clearly a well-coached team. They're a tough-minded team. But I think in the post, in the paint, they're a little soft. And I thought our athleticism could have hurt them. Well, here's what happens. We're playing, and I thought there was some calls that should have been called on both teams. I'm sure the Ole Miss message boards were lighting up as physical as we were playing. There were a couple times we went over the back and didn't get called for it in that big run to open the game. And so it gets to be a very physical game. And then all of a sudden, we want to call everything. Everything. I mean, you breathe on somebody, okay, it's a foul, And so there was this ebb and flow with officiating, and I really felt like once Ole Miss made a run, to their credit, right? I'm not taking anything away from Ole Miss here, but I felt like the officiating kind of got on a run with them, and that's kind of human nature, right? All of a sudden they're making a run. Things are, You're playing good basketball. It's not a scramble drill. I mean, you're running your offense, you're making plays. And so within the framework of that, all of a sudden, you start getting calls. As a guy that used to coach basketball, I can tell you, that's part of the momentum of a game. Sometimes you got to call a timeout to get the officials to kind of get a reset too. It's true. And so later in the ball game, they decided, okay, we're going to let them play a little bit. And we did some silliness too. Like Sean Jones, grabbing on that. I mean, just let the kid dunk it, right? And we're about to get to that. Just let him dunk it, Again, game management down the stretch here, and I didn't think the moment was a little bit big for us. I think maybe we lost a little focus. And it wasn't just limited to one player, right? So nevertheless here, we end up turning the ball over. They miss a three-point basket and have to foul. And Kugel pushes it back out to a 5-point game. And you think, okay, well, this is it. Well, we end up, they get the two shots in the ball because of this flagrant. And listen, it wasn't especially egregious, but from a player safety standpoint, the guys know the rules. Sean, just let him dunk it. There's 4 seconds to go. Just let him dunk it. Right? We got to bring it in. They got to foul us immediately. But instead, we allow them to score without the clock moving. And not to mention, you probably run this thing down to 2 seconds if you let him dunk. Could even run it out, if he tries to lay it up and in. But, Brakefield makes one of two. Made them both, excuse me. So it makes it a 3-point game, and then, we end up turning the thing over. And, I guess it's a different sequence there. But the reality of it is, again, 2 points in the ball. So they get 2 points, they get the inbound shot. And they fire it up, and it's an air ball. And you could tell that he was trying to get contact there. And Cam, that's the wrong guy, right? I mean, if you're Mississippi State, there's nobody that you want there in that moment defending on the ball more than Cam. The guy knows how to defend without fouling. He's not a football player, he's a basketball player. He can play football. But you knew in that situation, we talked about some younger guys and some newer guys maybe lacking a little bit of situational awareness as we close this thing out. But in the moment, the Bulldog leader stood up and secured the victory for Mississippi State. A hell of a game. Absolutely hell of a game. And again, so glad to have been there to see it. Let's kind of look inside the numbers a little bit here. I gave you a more lengthy recap on that today just because of the fact, the significance of it. Not just because it was Ole Miss. It's a ranked opponent at home, and it snaps the losing streak. But, it's a 37-29 game at the break, and then they outscore us by 8 in the second half, and then we get them by 3 in overtime. Sean Padula played almost every minute of this thing, led Ole Miss in minutes played at 39, had 18 points. He is one of those guys, too, that I don't know that he can really create. He's a pretty good set shooter, even though he goes 3 of 12 from beyond the arc, and some of that's good perimeter defense from Mississippi State. But when you don't run out there and get a hand in his face, he is a guy that can make you pay. Also had 4 personal fouls in the ball game and 3 turnovers to go with 3 steals. But he did lead the Rebels. Matthew Morrell, again, good game for him, 15 points. 5 of 10 from the floor, 3 of 4 from the line. And Mississippi State ended up making more free throws than Ole Miss attempted in this ball game. Is that right? Is that right, Nick? That's not right. That's not right. Yeah, it is right. It is right. Yeah, we made 17. They only attempted 14. I'm sorry. I thought I was mistaken, but I was incorrect. But, look at the Bulldog numbers here. I mean, R.J. Melendez with 12, Cam Matthews with 10, Josh Hubbard with 10, Riley Kugel off the bench with 21, and then Keyshawn Murphy off the bench with 18. There was a segment there where Keyshawn was just killing Ole Miss. I mean, just absolutely killing them. There was like nothing they could do. And I don't just mean him going down with the tomahawk jam that ignited the arena. There were so many times they would just try to get an entry-level pass in there and try to get a basket in a low post, and he was just like, nah, that's not happening. And they didn't even attempt the shot. They would just push it back out. Really good team defense. We didn't play a lot of people considering how long we play basketball, but stayed 29 of 65 from the floor, 9 of 27 from beyond the arc, 17 of 28, and rebounding, we pretty much dominated the game. We expected that. If you recall in our preview, we talked about Ole Miss has not been a great rebounding team. Rebounding is about toughness and effort. Mississippi State proved to be the tougher team, but again, give Ole Miss credit. When they got down in that ball game, it would have been easy to say, you know what, it's just not our night. And the Mississippi State fans did all they could to make it a hostile environment. It was a great home court environment for Mississippi State. And I think in the end, all of you deserve some credit for being a part of it. I don't think there's any question. It was a team effort. The team made the plays, but the fuel for the victory came from the stands. And I love the fact that Cam Matthews, who has become an institution here. And I tell you what's interesting, too, about Cam Matthews. I talked to somebody in administration recently, and we talked about, the changing world of college athletics. And it makes a guy like Cam Matthews that much easier to respect. Cam could have left. He could have went in the portal. He could have went pro, probably played overseas somewhere. But instead he came back twice. And you begin to think about institutional type players, right? The transfer portals kind of changed the dynamic of all of that. And it's like the Jake Mangum interview a while back with Chris Lemonis. Chris Lemonis, hey, this is why you come to Mississippi State to play in games like this and blah, 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 blah. And it kind of pissed Jake Mangum off. And Jake's like, no, Coach, this is why they go to their school, so they can come here to play against Mississippi State and play against people like me, right? And some people, oh, Steve, it's so arrogant. No, it's not his confidence. And he's right. You come to the SEC to play against Mississippi State at Dudy Noble. You come to the SEC to play at Alex Box Stadium against the LSU Tigers. You come to the SEC to play the Razorbacks at Baum Walker Stadium, right? You come to the SEC to go play the Kentucky Wildcats at Rupp Arena, right? That's why you make those decisions. But when you talk about players in an era of college athletics that are worthy of your respect, it's Cameron Matthews. Absolutely Cameron Matthews. He is a Bulldog through and through, and I love to see him on Twitter talking about how men love our fans so much. And you know what, Cam? We love you too. And so when you begin to think about this era in Bulldog basketball, and really Bulldog athletics as a whole, when there is so much musical chairs that goes along, Cam Matthews stayed. He stayed. And has now put you in a position where you're a consensus top 14 team in the country. And so I don't want that to get lost in all of the hubris about the portal and NIL and things like that. It makes guys like Cameron Matthews that much more important. That he didn't just commit to a coach, he committed to an institution. And Cam Matthews will be able to come back and walk out on the court and wave to the fans in Humphrey Coliseum for the rest of his career and get a standing ovation, and he will deserve it no matter what happens the rest of the way. And again, I go back to that decisive moment, right? Cam Matthews makes the pass out to Google. That's again, something we'll never forget. And then again, late, when you need the defensive stopper, there's Cam stepping up out there, knowing they had to get a three, defending without fouling, not letting the guy initiate contact and get three cheap ones at the line. It just makes you respect him that much more. Not just because he loves basketball, not just because he loves his teammates, but he loves all of you, and he loves Mississippi State. And that makes me respect him so much more. If that's even possible, right? Because how many times do we talk about him early in his career? He's the glue guy. He's a guy, getting rebounds, setting the picks, playing good defense, and maybe he scores 4 points. And you're like, man, Cam Matthews is the difference in this ball game. You look at the box score, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought he scored more. He didn't. He just did all the grunt work. The glue guy, as they say. The blue-collar guy. And my hope is, as much as I want it for all of us, I want it even more for Cameron Matthews. I want us to have an opportunity to get to the Sweet 16. And I want him to be part of a banner-hanging team of true significance. Not just making the tournament, but making a run in this tournament. Because I believe guys like that should be rewarded. student athletes that stay and show true loyalty. I think the basketball gods out there owe him a little bit. And that's just my take. All right, time for the top 10. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. Blair is our friend. He's our friend in the mortgage industry. There's so many of you out there that don't understand that you're going to need a seasoned mortgage loan officer to help get you to the closing table. Some of you may be non-conforming borrowers. Maybe you have an atypical property. And that may sound like jargon to you today, but when you have to deal with a loan officer, you're going to begin to learn those terms. So you need somebody that's seen it all and done it all. That's Blair Chandler. So whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, reach out to Blair, who is one of us. 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. We've had several Boneyard listeners that have put his 24 years of experience and expertise to work for them and gotten them to the closing table. There's a lot of complications in life. Simplify things when it comes to your mortgage by dealing with Blair Chandler. All right, I decided to go back. I got an earworm this morning. Did that ever happen to you guys? Or is it just me? You wake up in the morning and it's like, hey, I remember this song. Who sang that song? Well, I remembered it, and I went and pulled it up on YouTube, and I enjoyed it, through the computer, the speakers, and had a good time. It's a band called Hurt. Now, for those of you that were Sirius listeners before the Sirius XM, merger, let me turn that down a little bit. You remember, there was Sirius Octane. Right? That's what we call where new music is. Octane. Love that channel. I have people all the time, Steve, where did you find out about this new band? Well, sometimes it's on Instagram Reels, but more times than not, it's Sirius. I listen to Hair Nation too. Sometimes I listen to Lithium, even though I don't like the name of the channel. And you know my reasoning. But all that I understood, one of the early Octane bands was this band Hurt. And back in those days, when so many of you were with XM, Sirius, I thought, had better programming, so we went with Sirius. They had Ozzy's Boneyard, and I thought, hey, I can get behind this. I discovered Shinedown there. I enjoyed Alter Bridge there. There were so many of those bands I got excited about, and you could call Sirius, and you could make requests. And there were so few listeners of Octane back then, in about 10 minutes, they'd play your song. True story. And then they merged and things got big and they began the Octane Air Force, and you can volunteer to be a member of the Octane Air Force and you can vote each week for the Biggins Countdown, which is a cool thing. I mean, I don't really fit their schedule, but maybe they do for you, nevertheless. But I wanted to rock some Hurt today, and this is a band that out of Virginia. Got some cool stuff, man. They do. And I don't know if you know a lot about them. This is one of those bands I think I can turn you on to a little bit here. They formed back in 2000, and it's been interesting. There's some other bands out there called Hurt, too. I don't like that stuff. But there hadn't been a new album from them since 2008. I don't even know if they're still playing dates or not. I think they're now defunct. Oh, matter of fact, here it is. Yeah, they're just not doing much right now. So I thought, hey, let's give these boys some love today and turn you on to some tracks that maybe that you are unfamiliar with. And, we'll see how it goes. And so we'll start out with number 10. It's a track called Loaded. I don't know if you know that one or not, but it's a little bit of a deeper cut. It's one I think you'll enjoy. Number 9 was a song that they shared a revision. They did a remix of this one and re-released it as a single. It's called Pills. And the topic is exactly what you would think. It's well titled. Number 8, So When. think you'll like that one. And again, very self-explanatory, so when. It's like, well, it's not time to do this, so when? Like, when does it happen? When is the moment? Number 7, a song that applies to many of us in the South. It's Unclean. I think you'll dig that one. Kind of an aggressive track, too. Number 6, House of Cards. This is one, again, a little bit of a deeper track. It didn't really catch, but it's one that, fans are pretty familiar with. Now, if you were an early serious listener like me 20 years ago, you'll know these next 5. Number 5 is a great, great track, not to be confused with the guys in 1,000 Foot Krutch. The songs were out around the same time, but it Falls Apart. It's got a great acoustic intro, and it kind of builds and builds and builds, about how things fall apart. Those of you that are still struck in the grunge era, I think you'll appreciate the lyrical content of that one. Number 4, How We End Up Alone. And again, very forthright in the title. There's a lot to that. We can do some self-reflection on that same topic. And I think what's interesting about that, too, it feels like every time I get on here, I'm having to talk about something negative that happened to somebody in my life. It's just been that kind of stretch, man. But had a friend in high school. He was in my circle of friends, and we hung, but like we never made plans together. You know what I'm talking about. People we just always see at the same parties, always a good time. And he took his life last week. And so I've spent the last couple of days kind of reconnecting with that circle of friends. Because you know what happens, man? You look up one day and you're paying a mortgage and raising kids, and then all of a sudden, we're not even friends on Facebook anymore, And so reached out to a few people, found out, some negative things that happened in his life, both physically and emotionally. And he's going to be missed, and, went through a bitter divorce and stuff. He's got 3 kids, a couple grandkids, and now he's not going to be around for them. And after I got the news, and I don't want this to come off as sounding selfish, okay? Please understand, I say this with the best of intentions. I called my wife and I said, listen, I just want you to know I'm never going to do this to you. And it was very emotional for me. I'm never going to do this to you. And I'm a guy, too, that has peaks and valleys. We've talked about that so many times. I try to be an optimist and be positive about life, but sometimes things are negative. I have some down days. And I think at some point everybody has considered the worst, right? And that's why I wanted to take this time again to share with you the number 988. If you are thinking of harming yourself or others, dial 988 and you can get help. If calling is not a possibility, if you need to text, you can text that same number, 988. I would rather share this on every single show and get you help than to just kind of sit back and say, well, life happens to all of us. I can tell you, I spoke to one of Chris's best friends, a guy that he grew up with. I think they met when they were like 3 years of age. And this guy was in a band with me for a while. And I began to kind of think about that aspect of it, right? Even though Chris and I were not especially close. We were friendly. We were friends. But he was a couple years older than me. And many of my friends were older than me, too. And I began to think about his best friends. And so I called Clay, and I was like, dude, I'm just calling to check on you. He didn't have my number. I called him. I was like, hey, man, Steve Robertson. And I just wanted to call and check on you, dude. And it kind of hit me how much I admired Clay growing up. When I was, we had study hall together, and, he was the guy that was, he dated every girl that you wanted to date. He played guitar. He had longer hair, looked like John Stamos. And I just told him yesterday, I was like, dude, when I was a kid, I wanted to be you. And I said, and one day I got to be in a band with you. And it's one of the greatest honors of my life that I can say that I was in a band with you because you're so incredibly talented. And I thought about that afterwards. Why did I never tell him that before? But all of a sudden you lose a friend and you lose somebody that impacts so many of the people that you love. and you feel the need to reach out. And I am not shy to do that. And and by the end of the conversation, he's like, "Hey, man, you listen. You need to get a hold of so and so. They're really struggling. You need to talk to so and so." And so I basically spent the evening, communicating on Facebook and making calls and texts and things like that, and just trying to remind people that we're not alone. And it's so easy to get caught up in all that and beginning to feel like your pain is unique and that nobody's ever understood this and nobody's ever experienced this before. But the truth of the matter is, no matter what you're going through, somebody has. And they've been able to overcome it. I shared with somebody a while back, they said, "Well, Steve, you're a survivor." I said, "Honestly, and this will sound haughty, I don't mean for it to be. I'm not a survivor because survivor involves luck. I'm an overcomer because it requires work. I've worked to improve a lot of the things that are wrong with Steve Robertson. Some things that I was born with, some things that I was raised with, some things that, of course, that I experienced on my own. But I just don't want any of you to feel alone. My DMs are always open. I don't sponsor anybody anymore in recovery because I don't have time. I can't be as accessible to them, but I always say, hey, call me before you drink. Here's my number. Call me before you drink. Message me before you drink. Don't go out picking things up. Call me, While I can't be your sponsor, I can be an accountability partner for you. And so I want to tell all of you the same thing. And many of you have taken me up on that over the years. But I love each and every one of you, whether you love me or not. My love is not conditional on the fact that you reciprocate on the same level that I do. But I know this. I know that if I lost another best friend, that I got some people that would call and check on me. And just having that conversation, it was very emotional. And I began to think, how many people do I really love and I've respected and admired in my lifetime that I have not truly told them how I felt about them because of my own ego? Because when you call somebody and say, hey, I want you to know that I've always respected you. I've always looked up to you. It's almost like you're saying in some ways you're subservient. But I was. There was this guy, he was like a hero to me. And so I had never told him that. And so when I think about the people that I love, I want them to know how much I love them. I tell my kids all the time, and we don't always agree politically. And sometimes I don't even like having those discussions because I'm afraid that as their dad, I'm going to hurt their feelings or something, But that's part of love, right? Is telling people the truth. And I'm so glad that my kids feel close enough to me that they can be honest about their own beliefs and not just perpetuate some fraud that I get surprised someday, that they're living their lives different than I thought, I think that's a very important aspect of life. But be true to each other. Number 3, it's a track called Wars. This is a ripper here, man. This is one of those ones you got to be careful you got the cruise set. Because if not, you'll be speeding down the road and you won't realize it. You get so caught up in the song, you forget about the fact that your foot's pressing the pedal to the floor. Number 2, and they did this song with an orchestra. I haven't been able to find that version. This is a beautiful song. It's a rock song. The lyrical content is elite, and it's called Rapture. And again, pretty much what you'd expect. But it's one of these songs, too, that I think kind of typifies who this band was. But your number 1 track, and I absolutely dig this, man. And there's so many times I'll put this on in my car and I'll crank it. And it's just one of those ones, man, that I think about. It takes me back almost 20 years thinking about it. It's a track called 10-Ton Brick. And if you know Hurt, you know that track. There's some language in it. I'm going to prepare you now. But it's one of these things, about the burdens in life. But it's like, rather than be weighed down by them, this person is like, hey, you basically tried to put all this extra weight in my wagon, but I was able to kind of get free from all that stuff. That's really what it's about. It's an overcoming type song, even though there's some pain associated with it. So there you go, the band Hurt. I started to go a couple different directions today, but I didn't want to be political. This is how I feel. I like to be apolitical on this show. I've got some very strong political beliefs. I just don't always share that stuff. I don't think who you vote for should be anybody's business. It's interesting how the internet has changed that. There used to be something that we kept private. Now everybody has such pride in who they vote for. And what that's about. And I don't judge people based on their political beliefs because we haven't had the same experience, right? And I think that's important to understand. There are some things that are important to me that maybe aren't so important to you. And there are people that things are important to you that really don't matter to me. And it's interesting. I shared this comment with somebody recently in a not so civil discussion, but it was somebody that I care about. And sometimes, the way you show you care is to tell somebody the truth. And this particular person had said, kind of like, hey, I need to do this and do that, whatever. And so I wanted to get their attention, but I also wanted to make sure they understood exactly where I'm coming from. I said, please do not mistake my lack of emotional involvement in all of this with any boundary that you've told yourself you've set. Because I've got nothing to do with that. Nothing. So don't sit here and claim ownership of this, because I don't want to be a clown in your circus. I don't want to be involved in all this stuff. And so if you want to do right and you want to be, walk the straight and narrow, I'm more than happy to help you, and I'll always be here for you. But, if we don't correspond for a while, it's not going to be because you decided of your own volition this is how things are going to be. Because, my involvement in your life is voluntary. I don't have a requirement to be involved with you. I don't have to communicate with you, but I do so because I care about you. But please understand that, if you elect to go a certain way, then you go your own way. And that's fine with me. We'll still be friends, but don't in any way, feel like, well, hey, I'm going to, set this boundary and you have to respect it. I don't have to do anything but die and stink. I have to do anything. And there's so much, we talk about words having power. There's so many people that think, well, I've established this. And, listen, I believe in, quote, setting boundaries. Like, there's only certain things that I'll do with certain people, right? But some of this has become almost hyperbolic. And, it's like, well, hey, I don't want you to do this. And if you do it, we can't be friends. Well, that's cool, too. We can just be acquaintances. We don't have to be friends. And as a matter of fact, if we're not going to be friends, I'd appreciate if you don't go out there and advertise the fact that we were friends. Don't go trade on my name. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. I'm only going to do, outside of the responsibilities that I have with work and family and community, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm going to do it with whoever I want to do it with. That's willing to be a part of it. It's just one of those things that just kind of chaps my hide a little bit. It's like, hey, well, this is how things are. No, this is not how things are. Let me tell you how things are and how they're going to be. Don't ever overestimate my involvement in foolishness, because I'm absolutely not going to be a part of it. I got too much to protect. Well, if that's how it's going to be, then that's how it's going to be. All right. Thanks for your support of Top 10 List. Lo, these many years. We've been doing this now for over 5 years. We're right at 5 years now. Coming up on the 5-year episode, 5-year anniversary of the Top 10 List. We've done things besides music, too. We've done cartoons. We've done dinosaurs. We've done movies. One of my favorite ones is when this lady messaged me, and some of you would know her on Twitter. She's kind of Mississippi State famous on Twitter. And she told me that when her and her husband were dating, that she loved Rob Lowe. She had a crush on Rob Lowe. And that he suspected that they had had arguments about, another Rob Lowe movie. Rob Lowe movie would come out, we got to go see that. And so she asked me, because her husband is a listener to the show, to do my favorite top 10 Rob Lowe movies so she could kind of goad him a little bit. I thought it was great. It was great. So if you got ideas even outside of music, you never know, we may just do it. We love doing the music, though. We love doing music for you guys, but we're not limited to that. Best way to get us your ideas is to hit up Roy Samanti, my friend, on X at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. And you can find our great list on Spotify under that same handle. Just go ahead and hit subscribe. Make life easier on yourself. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, I love Campus Bookmart. You should too if you don't already. You may already have a raging love affair with them. If not, you should, because you're a Mississippi State person, and they are too. And they know what true maroon looks like. Don't trust your online purchases to some third party out there that doesn't know the difference between crimson and maroon. It's true. Miss Kathy Brown does an amazing job outfitting that store with all the latest and greatest things you need. If you're a Mississippi State fan, whether it be apparel, gift ideas, knickknacks, it doesn't matter. Valentine's Day is coming up too. Give the gift of maroon. Go ahead and order today from Campus Bookmart, and we'll make it a little easier for you to do so. We'll give you a promo code. Promo code BSR stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. And I got to say, too, if you don't spend $75, I kind of wonder maybe how sweet they are, to you. You have those discussions, I love you more. Let's just have like a tournament of loving for the rest of our lives. Let's just see who can love each other the most. Not necessarily who could spend the most, but sometimes that's part of the deal. Gift giving is part of the, one of the love languages, right? I'm a words of affirmation person. I don't know how you guys, that may not be a surprise. The bride is a acts of service person, but I do a little bit of all of it, right? I do the touch and the gift giving too. And so the thing that I've learned too is like so many women in our fan base, they love getting all kind of cool stuff, but they love getting Mississippi State merch too. And a lot of times you don't think about that for Valentine's, so, but maybe sneak in, Mississippi State basketball or baseball shirt. Just get her something cool. Get her something Mississippi State. I mean, she's a state girl, man. Come on, man. It's true. But next time you're in town, go by and see them. But again, you can shop online, campusbookmart.net. We love them. Okay, Mississippi State women came up short yesterday, and it felt like for a while we had a shot here. Give Ole Miss some credit for adjusting. We get off to a nice lead, and then we have a couple of segments there, and we're only up one. Really the difference in this ball game, second period. They only outscored us by 6, but they hold us to just 9 points. We kept turning it over. Give them a lot of credit. We bounced back there in the third. And it's exciting. You think, hey, Steve, we got a chance to win this thing. We're just down 2 as the fourth quarter opens. They outscore us 18-12. We just couldn't get over the hump. Madison Scott with 30 points for Ole Miss. 11 of 18 from the floor. Knocked down a 3, 7 of 8 from the line. 30 points in a women's game. You don't see that an awful lot. And that's what it took, right? Jerkella Jordan, outstanding again for Mississippi State. 8 of 18 from the floor, 2 of 7 beyond the arc. Didn't get to the line quite as often as we'd like, right? Mississippi State only 9 free throws attempted in the game. Not much, 7 of 9. But Jerkella with 19 points, 15 points for Anaya Russell. Medina Okai got off to the hot start there. Pulled down 12 rebounds and just 8 points. I believe she had 6 in the first quarter. And they kind of found a way to limit her from getting the ball. Denham DeShields, just 5 points in the game. DeBrescia with just 3. Now, we're going to need more than 2 scorers to win against competitive SEC teams. We didn't get much at all from the bench yesterday. And again, we talked about that one quarter. You make 4 shots in a quarter, it's tough to win. Fourth quarter, you made 5. It's tough to win. All of that stuff is important. But just 13 points from the bench on the Mississippi State side. And please, let's not get crazy on social media. I've seen some people that have said some things, and I'm like, guys, those ladies are wearing the same logo that I wear and that you wear. Sam Purcell wearing the same logo that I wear and you wear. And so it's unfortunate we lose 71-63, and that's kind of how it happens, right? When you lose the rivalry game, especially when it's the only shot you got at them this year, it lingers. And so the emotional reaction to that, like you lose to Tennessee and Knoxville, and you're like, okay, I get it. But you lose to Ole Miss and Starkville, there's going to be an emotional reaction. So that's kind of where we are. Bulldogs 15-5 overall and 2-4 in the SEC. And we knew that this opening of the SEC schedule was going to be difficult. It's proven to be. We really needed to win that Ole Miss game, but I don't think it is a season killer for us. Now, you get a chance to bounce back on Thursday. You'll host Auburn. We'll preview that game on the Wednesday show. Then you go to Missouri. Then you go to LSU. So a chance to pick up a couple wins there before you go down to LSU. Then Arkansas comes in, one of the worst teams in the league. Alabama comes in. They're good, not great. We got to go to Vanderbilt. Could be a winnable game. Florida. Again, you got a chance to put together a really good run to close out the season. It's weird to say that, too. I mean, it's January 20th. The regular season ends, was it February 27th? March 2nd, March 2nd. I mean, so, what is it, 6 weeks? Yeah, 6 more weeks of regular season basketball. And so we got to make them count. So, no, I'm not off the bandwagon. I think that the schedule lightens up a little bit for us. Of course, playing LSU in Texas is not going to be a picnic. But I think every other game is at worst a toss-up. On the men's side, and I know you guys are excited about this, as you should be. Because I think Auburn is the only team that's really outclassed us this year. I think we'd all agree that we are just as good as Kentucky. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are just as good as them. We didn't play well against Auburn, and that's kind of to be expected. But you get the game against Ole Miss and, the bad game against Butler. I mean, but again, you look back at this and you think, hey, we're as good as anybody in this league, maybe outside of Auburn. And now you go to Tennessee tomorrow, Tuesday. Tennessee's been a good team too. Maybe not as good as they have been. And, you don't have Dalton Connect anymore, so it's a little different deal. But they're still a top 10 team, ranked 6 and 7 in the polls respectively. So, we're going to have to go up there and play exceptionally well. And, we kind of had their number last year. And that's the thing you begin to think about. Maybe Chris Jans has figured some things out with Rick Barnes. This Tennessee team is 10-0 at home, though. It's never a picnic going to Knoxville and playing basketball in any variety in a Thompson-Boling Arena because they will absolutely get after you. But Tennessee 16-2 overall, 3-2 in the conference. So in some respects, we're kind of similarly situated. We're a top 15 team. They're a top 10 team. Are we capable of winning this game? You better believe it. We absolutely can win this game. Tennessee opened up, the regular season. Blowouts of Gardner-Webb. They get Louisville at Louisville. They blow out Montana. Of course, Austin Peay. They take down Virginia down in the Bahamas in the Continental Tire Baha Mar Championship. What a great place to go, right? And then they get Baylor, too. So they win both of those games down there. At the time, Baylor was ranked 13th in the country. They blow out UT Martin. They get Syracuse in the SEC ACC Challenge by 26. And just for an encore, they back it up and play Miami in the Jimmy V Classic and get them by 13. They go to Illinois and win by a pair over the Fighting Illini. Not maybe as easy as you think. They blast Western Carolina, of course, Middle Tennessee, Norfolk State, and then they get an SEC play, and they just destroy Arkansas. Arkansas was ranked 23rd, and you and I both know that's based on John Calipari's reputation. That's just how it is. You expect John to coach well. He did a good job at UMass, good job at Memphis, and, of course, at Kentucky. Maybe not to their overall expectations, but you felt like, hey, Arkansas will be a better team in time. They didn't have a roster, guys. So the fact that they're preseason 23 is really a vote of confidence in John Calipari. It's not been good, though. And so then Florida absolutely ambushes Tennessee. 73-43. Did you see that coming? I don't think anybody did. I really thought Tennessee would go down there. It'd be a tie ball game, and they lose by 30. Nuts. They go to Texas and win by 4. They take care of Georgia 74-56. And then they lose over the weekend to Vanderbilt. So we will see a very focused Tennessee team. They lose 76-75 in Nashville. Pretty crazy in that respect. So, we're going to have to bring our best effort. Again, you've got a Tennessee team that has been highly motivated and highly ranked, coming off a loss on the road, going back home. So, we're going to should see a very focused Tennessee team, averaging 76 points a game, giving them just 58. And again, some of that's a quality competition. They've had a lot of tight games, win or lose. But some of their non-conference games, were a joke. And that's not being critical of them. That's just the reality of college basketball these days. But they're outscoring opponents by 18 points a game. We talked about how well Ole Miss has shot it this year. Yeah, Tennessee right there with them, 46% from the floor and 35% from beyond the arc. Perimeter defense has been pretty good for them, though. They contest a lot of shots, for sure. Rebounding, they're out rebounding opponents by about 8 a game, pulling down 38.6, allowing just over 30. Dish out 290 assists, about 16 a game. Opponents getting 9. They have not forced a ton of turnovers, though. Now, they've turned it over 201 times, and they've turned their opponents over 247. So turn it over about 11 a game and forcing 13. So, not a big difference there, but something to really watch. They will get at it and play some defense and steal the basketball at times. They average about 8 steals a game. They've also allowed about 6 a game, too. They will get some hands in the air to block about 5 shots a game. But looking a little bit deeper inside the numbers here. Chaz Lanier is the straw that stirs the orange drink. 18.1 points per game. Zakai Ziegler, 12.3. Jordan Gainey, 11.3. And is it Igor Milicic? Hopefully I got that right. Maybe Stefan Krajnik can help us with that. 10.7. So 4 regulars in double figures, and Jordan Gainey is not a starter. Neither is Cade Phillips. And so they have a pretty set routine, but the same 5 starters, including Jemai Mashak, have started all 18 games. And again, a couple of guys, too, that play starter quality minutes coming off the bench. So a team that's going to have some depth. And guys, we have gone to Tennessee before and absolutely got our craniums kicked in. I almost said something that I shouldn't. But conference play has been a little more interesting for them. And again, you look at this. Of course, numbers always come down in conference play because the quality competition is better. But Lanier, still 14.2 points a game, and Ziegler right at 14. And so it's the usual suspects, just maybe not with the same frequency. Rebounding has been, a bit of a challenge at times for them, for certain players. But, in the front court, they do a good job, as you'd expect. Rick Barnes, of course, maybe didn't get the respect he deserved at Texas. But he is a guy, certainly, that has the opportunity to do some good things, and it's kind of reignited this program. After Bruce Pearl was dismissed and the program put on probation, they kind of wandered in the wilderness for a little while, but Rick Barnes has kind of brought them back into the national spotlight, and rightfully so. And, we've played some really good teams during Rick Barnes' era there in Knoxville, and had some really good games. I go back to the Reggie Perry years, and that was the one hurdle that felt like we just couldn't climb, outside of Kentucky, was Tennessee. And we gave them a good run at times, but in the end, they were just better than us. And I think this year, maybe that gap is a little bit like it was then. Maybe they're a little bit better than us, and, maybe we go out there and make some things happen. I don't think you've got to worry about Chris Jans having to pull our kids out of the clouds. I think our kids expected to beat Ole Miss, right? We beat Ole Miss, 5 of the last 6 times with Chris Jans as a coach? Is that correct? 5 of the last 6? So, we expect to beat them, even though it ended up being an exciting game. I think rather than being a game that will have a hangover effect, I think it'll have a motivational effect for us. I think it's going to be tough to go to Tennessee and win, but I certainly expect us to go out there and compete and have a chance to win this ball game. And, Josh Hubbard, we've talked about this recently. Josh has not really been Josh, and I don't know that we need the Josh of 2024 in order for us to be a successful team this year. We don't need him to be the volume shooter. But as well as I do, he's got one of those 25 or 26-point games coming, and maybe that comes Tuesday night in Knoxville against Tennessee. How great would that be? It'd be incredible. So we'll get back on Wednesday. We'll recap the game, kind of look ahead the rest of the week. But, basketball is not just fun again. Basketball is really fun again. It's like we've kind of gotten to the point now. It's like, you know how it was, especially late in the Howland years, be like, well, if it's on, I'll watch it. Nowadays, you're making plans around it. Like, even if you can't get to the hump, maybe you live outside of a reasonable driving distance, you're like, hey, I got to get home. Mississippi State's playing. It's exciting. I don't know that we felt this, and I want to be respectful to Ben. I don't know that I have seen the energy within the fan base maybe since Stansbury. And I know that Ben had, we had the one tournament year, but it always felt like we had so many hills and valleys in those years. Even in that year, of course, it ends losing to Liberty in that 12-5 game. We had no business losing. And I've actually seen some people try to defend that. No, it's unacceptable. It's true. But there is a belief within this team and in this program and the direction of this coaching staff that I think we have not seen in a long, long time at Mississippi State. And it makes it so much fun, And again, I want to kind of caution the gatekeepers out there. Guys, this is what you wanted, right? You wanted packed out arenas. You wanted people there to help give the home court advantage. And I've seen some comments. It's like, hey, well, why weren't you the guys there all along? It doesn't matter now. All that matters is now. It doesn't matter where they were. It's about where they are. And you and I both know when it comes to Mississippi State, even though some people don't want to admit it, when it comes to men's basketball, we're a little bit fair-weathered. You remember there were times the women outdrew the men during the Vic Schaefer years. It's true. And so now you're getting what you want. Just be happy. Just be happy. We're playing winning basketball. We have great fan support. We have people that are excited about Mississippi State men's basketball. Just be grateful that you've got what you wanted, and let's all push together and move forward here. And listen, I get it. I'm so incredibly impressed. We have so many great basketball donors that have been through us with us through thick and thin. But this is what they wanted too. Packed houses, top 25 wins, which we already have 3 of, right? So let's enjoy the moment and let's not go beat our chest and about, well, I've been here all along. We commend you for it. But now you have reinforcements. You have grown the Army. And again, you have been there through some very difficult times, and you are to be commended. But the reality of it is now is Mississippi State is winning, and winning big. It's the hottest ticket in town. And as you could see by so few Ole Miss fans showing up on Saturday, was a big part of that. So Mississippi State fans, again, if you can't make it and you have tickets, let's get those tickets in the hands of other Bulldogs. And I want to say this again. And I know some people won't like it, and I'll try to look around here and find some sympathy for you. If I was running the show, and I'm not, which is a good thing for a lot of people, because there's some people that wouldn't be able to work for me. But when I look in club level seating and I see some powder blue shirts. Now this is not an Ole Miss issue. This is a Mississippi State issue. I'm going to tell you like it is. If I was running the show, there would be nobody sitting in that area that's not wearing maroon and white. You're like, well, I got these great friends. Cool. Right. There are a lot of people around you that paid a lot of money to have those seats to be around Bulldogs. And so they said, well, they're my tickets. I can do what I want to. We have this debate all the time. I'm just telling you, if I was in charge, and I'm not, then your friend would have a new Mississippi State shirt that they go purchase at the gift shop. That's how it's going to be. Not going to have rival colors in our premium seating areas when Steve Robertson is the emperor of Mississippi State. So maybe you guys can lead a revolution and make that happen. I don't understand it, and I don't get it. It's one thing. Listen, I get it. We all have to get tickets from time to time on the secondary market. We do. You want to go see your game? You want to go see your team play? Chances are you're buying somebody else's season tickets, right? I get it. I understand that aspect of it. But when it comes to premium seating, it just can't be that way. It just can't. That's just my feelings about it, and I know that some will disagree, and you have the right to disagree. You also have the right to be wrong. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, without any question. You're bringing a large group to town, whether it be a group of family, group of friends, maybe just work acquaintances. I don't know your needs. Maybe you want to take a retreat to the Golden Triangle area. Be a wonderful place to come, enjoy some local cuisine and all the glory that is Mississippi State. Come up with some midweek games and enjoy maybe a men's basketball game and a women's basketball game, and then go home, return to life. No matter your needs, the folks at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse can accommodate you and your guests. Now, Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and their Facebook page will pop up, and you can peruse all the amenities available to you and your guests when you stay there. Now a 6-bedroom, 2-bath, soon to be 3-bath facility. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. So you can do all your tailgating right then and there. But the best part of it is just all the downtime, right? Everybody being together, having a chance to visit and get caught up. That's a big part of things. If you're grandmom, you want to be able to hold the grandkids, and you get the full service kitchen. You can cook, you can bake. You got the wet bar if you want to have an adult beverage. That fabulous back porch area, and of course the fire pit area. We used that extensively when we stayed there. You could use it these days, right? So enjoy the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Now, when you Google, some booking options are also going to appear. You can book through VRBO, Airbnb, but if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's beautiful Steve Robertson, and the number 10 gets 10% off your stay. So just by listening to this show, you're saving some money at the elite place to stay. So take ownership of that. Everybody says it. We need to get together more often, and you don't do it. So you be kind of the linchpin in your family or friend group and put this trip together. Go ahead and start checking dates and say, hey, we want to go up and enjoy a ball game weekend. We want you to be with us. Let's all pitch in together and go do some cool things. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Again, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. Okay, news is out now. Former Stanford offensive lineman Trevor Mayberry, now Bulldog. How about that? It's good stuff, man. Talking to him in advance of the visit, you kind of got the sense that he was leaning this way, and a big reason for that is Phil Lodeholt. He really liked the fact that Phil was an NFL veteran, a guy that had coached several players that had been in the league, and he talks about, I can't wait to work with him and learn from him. And that's one of the things that I think with Phil, we talk about having credibility in the room, credibility in the living room, credibility in the locker room. All of that matters when you've got a guy that's done it at the highest level. Now, Mayberry, of course, as we mentioned earlier in the week, or last week, began his career at Penn. And you don't just get into Penn on a wink and a smile. Spent a couple of years there, went in the portal, had a really good year at Stanford in 2023. 11 games, 9 starts, got a little bit banged up. And then, of course, had the injury in the offseason and took a red shirt this year. And with a year to work with, he decided to go in the portal and see what he could do. And now he's going to be a Mississippi State Bulldog. And worked primarily at left guard at Stanford. Guys, this is one of the best gets in the portal for Mississippi State. Not just because of the resume itself and the fact that he has NFL bloodlines. His dad played for the Buccaneers, a 3-time Pro Bowler. But also, too, this is a guy that is a plug-and-play starter. We talk extensively about you've got some pieces back on the offensive line. This is a key piece. This is now all of a sudden, provided you keep everybody healthy, this is one spot you don't have to worry about. Now, what does that mean for Jacoby Jackson? Do you flip him over to right guard? Possibly. If Carson Lee's coming in expecting to play center. You got Luke Work back, you got Albert Reese back. So you've got some pieces to work with, and now you've added a piece that's done it on the Power 5 level. Very significant. Now, I spoke with Jeff Levy on Saturday, and if you haven't read that, you can go read it at genespage.com. It is a VIP feature. I also tweeted it back out again today, so you can check it out. We had the big whistle kind of give us some comments, and he told us, hey, we need a guard, a tackle, and then maybe another corner. Well, now you've got the guard, and we're still chasing a tackle, and if we don't get one in the next couple days, we'll address that need in the spring when the portal reopens on April 16th. Now, Jaden Lawton, junior college corner from Tyler Community College, scheduled to visit Mississippi State this weekend. So that's one to watch too. You begin to think too, hey, if you take him, maybe that negates the need for a portal corner, at least from a roster management standpoint. And we need spring practice to go well in a few spots. But I feel good about the secondary, as does Levy. And he made that same comment. He goes, hey, I know what those guys are capable of in that room. I'm not worried about that. So this other corner that we take, whether it be Lawton or somebody else, it's not going to be the difference maker in our season. But a lot of snaps transferred to Texas Tech when Bryce Pollock left. Now, speaking of Texas Tech, DeCarlos Nicholson goes into the portal yesterday. Former Mississippi State guy. A lot of people thought, well, he'll just go to Texas Tech and reunite with Darcel McBath. Darcel took a job there as an analyst. Now he's on the field as a corners coach. Doing some check-in with DeCarlos' camp, that's not expected to be the case. It looks like he will land somewhere in the Big 12 unless something emerges here late. But Mississippi State, not really an option. He's not considered in Mississippi State. I don't know that State's seriously pursuing him. But either way, it all means the same thing, not here, right? And that's an important aspect of all of this stuff, too. And so one of the things that I would caution, too, is we have a tendency at times to think about the devil we know, right? It's like, well, I know what – DeCarlos had some good moments here, but he wasn't elite. And to be honest with you, I think it's kind of more of the same anyway. But immediately people think, hey, it's a name we know. Let's go get him. We know what he's capable of. I think, you know what? If you go get Jaden Lawton and he gives you what DeCarlos Nicholson could, you got another year to work with. That makes sense to me. And so we got to go get players that make us better. I believe we've done a lot of that. I feel good about where we stand right now. Now up to 51 new Bulldogs, and, of course, the majority of them are already in town, already in class, already in workouts with your staff. And I want to commend the Mississippi State football creative team for how quickly they're getting these videos out there to kind of letting you guys know. The reality of it is we need to market the program at all times. But you and I both know there were a lot of people at the end of last year that said, you know what, Steve, I can't do it. I can't go back and continue to make this investment financially and of my time and not get more of a return on that investment. And there were a lot of people that were upset, about Coleman Hutzer being retained. And so what do? We go out, we get Vincent Dancy. And I asked Levy about him, and he said, everybody I talked to tells me this guy's an elite ball coach. A lot of connections around Mississippi. I think he'll do a great job recruiting in state for us. And then you go get Phil Lodeholt. And I can tell you, as a guy that speaks to recruits regularly, his name is mentioned over and over and over again. And one of the things that I always think about when I interview players, like if I have to prompt them on the name, that's not a hard and fast rule, but I think, I'd like them to know who offered them. I'd like them to know and remember the name of the coach and said, hey, we want you to be a Mississippi State Bulldog. If they don't elect to retain that information, that kind of makes me feel like that we're not a serious option at this time. But when I ask a player, it's like, hey, well, who contacted you from Mississippi State? Oh, it was Coach Phil Lodeholt, and he played the National Football League. Came there from Colorado. Well, that just goes to show me that Coach Lodeholt has done a great job making a great impression. And the fact that this young man elected to retain that information tells me that Lodeholt has convinced him that Mississippi State should be a bona fide option for him. A little nuance in the industry in which I work with, right? Like one of the things that I used to always tell people about is I always ask people, and some other people in the industry kind of caught wind of that, and they begin to change things up. But when I ask a player, who is kind of standing out to you? And if they don't say Mississippi State in the first couple, chances are we're running second fiddle. But when I would ask kids, and I've done this forever and a day now, I would ask them, hey, who's standing out? Well, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU. And then the next time it's like, oh, it's Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas. And the third time, oh, it's Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Well, the reason that they mention Mississippi State first is because Mississippi State is a serious consideration. You know, I've had times in the past, you know, people would say, oh, yeah, this kid's really big on Mississippi State. And I call the kid and he didn't even mention us. And you know what? We've never signed any of those kids either. They're so, even in these early recruiting interviews, and we had several yesterday. Of course, junior day was on Saturday, and so we caught up with just about everybody yesterday. We didn't get up with J.J. Hill, which is kind of difficult to do over the phone. He's not a good talker in that respect. He's an intelligent kid. He does a great job when you're face-to-face, but he's just not a guy that's going to do a lot of communication with you on social media and things of that nature. But, yeah, when I talk to these guys, I always ask them, especially guys that have options, to kind of get a lay of the land, to kind of have an opportunity to kind of, get a perception of what's in a young person's mind. I mean, these guys, I'm a professional interviewer. And for many of these guys, it's the first, couple of interviews they've ever done, and in some cases, the first interview, and they're very nervous because they know it's going to be online. They don't want to sound like an idiot, and of course, I'm never going to let somebody look that way. But the reality of it is they don't play poker nearly as well as I do. And I don't call people and say, hey, I'm the Mississippi State guy, right? Now, they can figure that out on their own. They don't even have a 662 number. And so when I call people and say I'm from 247 Sports, I ask open-ended questions and let them lead the conversation. Because here's what I've learned in all the years of doing this, and there's some other people within our industry that still get burned with all this. There's a lot of guys out there that enjoy being interviewed. They enjoy having a little hype. They enjoy seeing their name on social media. And so if you say, hey, I'm the Alabama guy, well, guess what? He's going to speak highly of Alabama even if he's prepared to go to Auburn. It's true. And you can read sometimes, too, like the top schools, there's no consistency with it, right? And there's some guys out there. And so that's what happens. You kind of set yourself up for failure when you goes, hey, I'm the Mississippi State guy. Well, what I do is like when we have guys that take official visits, I'll let them know, hey, I'm the publisher and owner of the Mississippi State website, so I want to speak with you after your visit to recap your visit to Mississippi State. Well, that's a little more topical, right? But early in the beginning of this thing, and as we get closer into the visits and things of that nature, you can't lead the conversation. And there are some people that are no longer in our industry, and some of them are names that you know. That's kind of what they would do. They would lead the kid in the interview, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, well, I read the interview from Steve, and then this other interview doesn't match. Well, then next time I interview the kid, all of a sudden he speaks to me the same way he did before, and then he would speak to Chad Simmons, or he would speak to, Andrew Bone. All those guys that are with me would scout, and then all of a sudden the commonality of the interviews would match my interviews, and they wouldn't match the outlier. And when that happens, when you see an interview or you read an interview that does not match everybody else's, that typically means the interviewer is kind of guiding the kid. And it's easy to do. I don't ever, I don't have to ask the question. I don't ever say, well, what do you like about Mississippi State? Unless a kid has said, well, I like Mississippi State. Well, what do you like about it? But if I'm asking a kid who's standing out to you, and they goes, well, it's Arkansas and LSU and Oklahoma State. And then I might circle back and say, well, any of the in-state schools standing out to you? Well, I'm hearing a little bit from Mississippi State. Well, I know right then either he's not a priority for us or we're not a priority for him. But if you call him and say, hey, I want to interview about Mississippi State, well, then you're going to get all these quotes about Mississippi State that may not really matter. So there's, again, some nuance in every bit of this. And I got some guys that have been with me now for a short time, and that's one of the things that I'm teaching them is that if you go out there and you set up a scenario, these young people are going to tell you what they want you to, what they think you want to hear. It's like, well, hey, I'm the Mississippi State guy. Oh, yeah, I love the Cowbells, And then the next thing you know, they commit to Ole Miss, And so you've got to be careful in how you conduct yourself in these interviews to try to get the truth. That's what you guys want too, right? I don't want to have to go run and hide on signing day. And I know some other people formerly of this industry, signing day was the worst day ever for them because the chickens came home to roost on signing day. It's like all of a sudden, we think we may get these 10 kids and you get 2. Well, what happened? Well, nothing happened. It's just you were just misled the entire part of the process because you got an interviewer out there that basically is a PR person for the school in which they cover. That's the truth. I'm not going to get out there and be an advocate for the school. I'm trying to get you guys the truth. That's an important aspect of this. And so when you read these junior day interviews and, as we get into this thing into the spring, things kind of come into focus. I remember years ago, one of the dividing lines between if a school was truly interested or not, like everybody would claim all these offers, and there's a couple schools in Florida. Basically, if anybody came by to visit a kid or ask about a kid, they would call it an offer. Of course, it wasn't committable. But like Melvin Smith used to say, there's no harm in a kid thinking he's got an offer. True, right? Because at least they'll do their due diligence. But used to, you got one phone call in March, in the spring. So we get through signing day, and then you get one phone call. The coaches could call a kid one time. That's back before the days of social media, right? When it was just so easy to DM and text and things of that nature. And so if you'd ask kids, what phone calls did you get? Well, Auburn called me, Arkansas called me, Mississippi State called me. Oh, did Alabama or LSU call? No, they didn't call. And that's kind of how you knew, that, hey, these guys got an early get in the boat type offer. But, as the process has gone on, they're not really as serious about them. And so now it's a little more difficult, a lot of people go out there and check social media follows, and I can tell you that's a waste of your time. And how do I know? It's because I've tried to track them myself over the years. In the infancy of all this stuff, I remember when Leo Lewis was getting ready to commit to Mississippi State, I wrote an article about his likes on Twitter. Now you can't even see likes on Twitter. But when Mississippi State people were tweeting at him, he would like their tweets. When Ole Miss people tweeted at him, he did not. And so, of course, you know how things eventually turned out. We could write a book about all that stuff too. But the reality of it is that there is some information to be gleaned by these early interviews. And again, things kind of come into focus during the spring evaluation period as guys get more offers. And now with official visits taking place in June, the process is kind of ramped up. But you're not seeing as many early commitments. And I think a lot of that is due to rev share. Guys want a commitment, and it's like, hey, I know that so-and-so signed for this, and you're offering me 10% of that. Well, you're not going to make the biggest offer now, are you? So I think, again, these early months, you're not going to see a ton of commitments. You'll start seeing them, of course, when we get into June visits and things like that, and over the course of the summer. But the calendar continues to change. I just thought you guys would enjoy kind of knowing a little bit behind that, too. So we look forward to being back with you on Wednesday, of course. Mississippi State men will play Tuesday night against Tennessee. It'd be great to watch that game with other Bulldog fans. Maybe there's a watch party somewhere you can get to. We used to have those all the time, right? We have a watch party. Yeah, great that was. Alumni associations from around the country would get together and watch the ball game together and have chicken wings and some beer maybe. Things have changed. People, when they get home, people like to be home. But maybe you can find somewhere to go watch a game and congregate with friends and hopefully cheer the Bulldogs on to victory from afar. Of course, if you're in the greater Knoxville area, we'd love for you to go represent us and help cheer for the Bulldogs. If you haven't done so, go to DutyDoubleBook.com and you can order a signed copy of The Dude or all my sports titles, plus When the Bottom Falls, a story of my recovery. And we'd love for you to come float with us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville, 662-268-7601. If you have problems with anxiety or pain, or you just need a break, we may be able to help you. Call that number and you can speak to my wife directly. It's been very, very busy the last month, and we certainly appreciate the support. But there's no point in you sitting around and hurting or suffering with anxiety and stress more than you need to. We may have a solution. Come be a part of that. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.